Hey everyone, it's John Heath here again for Milton Rose Learning with another Let's Learn video on Christmas Carol key quotes. Okay, so we've selected 3 of the best themes which can come up on your assignments at school or your exams, and we're going to break them down with 3 of the best quotes for each theme. Okay, so yeah, let's dive in. So the first theme for me is one of redemption, where you start off bad but you turn out good. Okay, and we call that redemption, and I think that goes to the thematic heart of the text. So let's look at the first redemption quote. Okay, you got a nice image there of Charles Dickens. Okay, right then. So one of the most famous quotes from the whole thing, to be honest. He was as solitary as an oyster. What a quote. Okay, so that symbolizes Scrooge's isolation and emotional coldness. Okay, he doesn't really feel anything, to be honest, at the start of the text. So the oyster suggests that he's closed off from others because obviously he lives in a shell. Effectively, it's obviously metaphorical in some ways, and it also hints that there may be something valuable inside. Okay, so you open up the shell and he may become better. We might find something worth saving in there. So effectively that simile foreshadows Scrooge's potential for redemption. He can be better. So no matter how horrible he seems at the start of the text, he is capable of redemption, and that's the real moral core of this text. Okay. Next one, just down here. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. That's from Scrooge, and that's when he's been turned and he's kind of redeemed to a point. So he declares his commitment to lasting change, and it's not just a seasonal performance. He doesn't just put on a good performance for Christmas, okay, once he's been redeemed. Now, obviously, as we all know the symbolism of Christmas in Christian kind of theology. It's Christ's birthday, and it was a very, very big deal in this period. It still is, obviously, but it carried big religious connotations here, and the whole Christmas kind of mythology and theology around it really provides the moral backdrop to this novella, and you want to tease that out in terms of context in any of your essays. Okay. Right then, and down south, back to Dickens as well as the narrator. This is about Scrooge. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew. Okay, this is when Scrooge's moral transformation is complete. He's been redeemed. So it confirms his complete redemption and sets him up as a moral example, or dare we say a paragon, if we're being very, very posh about it. And look at the repetition of good in that quote. The repetition is very, very noticeable. And good here means moral. It means living up to Christian teachings and being a good Christian, effectively, which the audience would definitely have approved of. Okay. Right, now on to the next theme, which is what we've called social responsibility. So let's have a look at 3 really interesting quotes for that. Now, early on, as we know in the novella, Scrooge is not a nice guy, and he has no sense of social responsibility. And we know that when he says, "Are there no prisons? And what about the union workhouses?" Now, he's talking about the poor here, and he's saying, well, if they can't work or they can't earn money and stuff, why don't we just throw them in prison? Or even worse, the workhouse, which was absolutely appalling. You can Google those, awful places to be. And it reflects the cold, uncaring view of poverty and echoes kind of real Victorian attitudes at the time. The poor were denigrated and seen as, barely human in some ways. They were kind of seen as like, they didn't really need morality being applied to them. They just needed to work harder. And at the start, Scrooge very much epitomizes that social view. Then down here we have, let's just get this one on. There we go. Now, so the ghost of Christmas Present says to Scrooge, he kind of scares him, "This boy is ignorance and this girl is want. Beware them both." So the Ghost of Christmas Presents brings these allegorical figures, these kind of symbol kind of characters to Scrooge. Ignorance is obviously not knowing anything about the world or not wanting to know, and want is obviously living in poverty and not having the basics. So the ghost is kind of warning Scrooge here and warning the reader, obviously. So Dickens warns that neglecting education, which creates ignorance, obviously, and poverty, which is want, that will ultimately destroy Victorian society. We cannot allow poverty in society, and we can't allow a lack of education in society. They are the touchstones of civilization almost. And the Ghost of Christmas Present is trying to inculcate those values in the reader. Okay, right, and down here then, let's have a look. So Scrooge again. If they would rather die, and they is the working class, if they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Absolutely brutal. Now, there was a man, for you, the ones who are pushing for the high grades here, there was a man called Thomas Malthus, who you may want to research and Google. And his social theory was if the poor got out of control and there was too much population, well, we just let them die, basically. It was very brutal. In terms of the social view, and Scrooge is mimicking Thomas Malthus's social theory there, so you might want to research him kind of very, very kind of clearly. So it's a shocking line that highlights the cruelty of utilitarian thinking and social injustice and that Malthusian view of the world. Imagine if you were to say that now about just letting the working class kind of die off. I mean, it's inhumane. It goes all against all human rights. So that kind of quote can be very, very well analysed for you, especially to get extra marks with Thomas Malthus's views, which Scrooge is kind of showing there. And then last but not least, let's have a look at Christmas spirit quotes. Okay, and we know Christmas is very, very important in this text and obviously in wider society. So let's have a look then. So this is from Fred. Christmas is a time when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely. So it kind of, in a sense, is celebrating the season of Christmas as a time of generosity, unity and compassion. We are kind of, we're at our best during Christmas because it's Christ's birthday, obviously. We're all on our best behaviour most of the time. And this is a time to show our true Christian morality. So it really symbolises, I think, the importance of Christmas in the Christian calendar. Okay, and on to the next one, just a bit of a wide quote here. So we've got Fred again, looking very jolly. A Merry Christmas to everybody, a Happy New Year to all the world. And really look at those exclamation marks there, the exclamatory sentences to change the tone. So Fred embodies the inclusive and joyful spirit that Dickens wants to promote. This is at root a kind of, in this period, it's a very religious text. It wants to try and get us to lead better lives and to be better Christians in a Victorian era. And Fred kind of embodies that, and it's a really interesting juxtaposition, his view here with Scrooge's negative view at the start until he's redeemed. Okay, very interesting quote there. And then last but not least, this little lad. Okay, so we've got Tiny Tim. And he says, very short quote, but really interesting. So, God bless us, everyone. Now, the God blessing us kind of really establishes this religiosity of the text, this religiousness, if I can put it that way. And Tiny Tim, through that quote, such as that, he becomes almost this symbol of innocence and hope. And it reminds us of the redemptive quality or power of Christian charity. We all, through our embrace of God and Jesus, as Dickens would kind of intimate, we can all redeem ourselves and we can all wash away our sins. Okay, this is in some ways quite a profoundly religious text, and in a modern era we tend to forget that, but it really is, and as you can see, Christianity and Christian charity goes to the absolute heart of this text, and that will be very interesting for you to tease out when you're analysing the language. Okay, right then. So, obviously, thanks for watching. Hopefully you found that really interesting and really kind of useful for your essays. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss another Let's Learn video again. And it just remains to say, really, thanks for listening and take care.